Imagine this. You and a few hundred comrades must face an army of hundreds of thousands, the mightiest force the world has ever seen. Would you stand your ground and fight to the last breath, all to defend the freedom of your homeland? In 480 BC, at a narrow mountain pass called Thermopylae, 300 Spartan warriors and their Greek allies created one of the greatest legends of courage in human history. At that time, the Persian Empire under King Xerxes I was a vast superpower, stretching from India to the Mediterranean Sea. Their army was said to number over 1 million men. Though the real figure was likely smaller, it was still an overwhelming force compared to the divided Greek city-states. When Xerxes set out to conquer Greece, many city-states trembled and surrendered. But Athens and Sparta, the two most powerful, chose to resist. The Athenians prepared their navy, while the Spartans, famed for their iron discipline and military might, stood ready to sacrifice everything to defend the land. King Leonidas of Sparta knew he could not meet the Persians head-on in open battle. Instead, he chose Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, a narrow coastal pass where only a handful of men could fight side by side. Here, Leonidas hoped to turn the Persians' massive numbers into a useless burden. With 300 elite Spartans and several thousand Greek allies, he set out to block Xerxes' advance. As the Persian army marched into the pass, they expected to sweep the Greeks aside in a single charge. But the Spartans were waiting. Clad in bronze armour, carrying large round shields and long spears, they formed an unbreakable wall of steel. Shoulder to shoulder, they pushed back each Persian assault like waves crashing against solid rock. Thousands of Persians fell, their bodies piling high, while the Spartan line remained unshaken. The Persians soon realized they were not fighting peasants or mercenaries, but warriors trained from birth to fight and to die with honor. On the second day, an enraged Xerxes unleashed his most feared troops, the Immortals, an elite corps of 10,000 men said never to be defeated. Yet in the narrow pass, their numbers meant nothing. Spartan skill and discipline crushed wave after wave. Even the mighty Immortals broke against the wall of shields and spears. The legend of Sparta grew. Few in number, fearless in battle, willing to face death without hesitation. But on the third day, tragedy struck. A Greek traitor named Ephialtes revealed a hidden mountain path to Xerxes, allowing the Persians to outflank the defenders. Leonidas knew the end was near. He dismissed most of the allies to save their lives. Only 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans chose to remain and fight to the last man. With enemies pressing from both front and rear, the Spartans prepared for their last stand. When their long spears shattered, they drew short swords. When their swords broke, they fought with bare hands and teeth. King Leonidas himself fell in the fighting, but his death only fueled the Spartans' fury. At last, every one of the 300 Spartans and their allies lay slain. But they had not surrendered. They left behind a wall of corpses, forcing the Persians to pay dearly for every step. Thermopylae was not a military victory, but it was a triumph of spirit. The sacrifice of Leonidas and his 300 gave Greece the courage to unite. 1 year later, the Greeks struck back, defeating Persia in decisive battles at Salamis and Plataea. Today, Thermopylae remains a symbol of courage, that freedom is worth more than life itself. The Spartan spirit of fighting to the last breath became an immortal legend. That is the story of the 300 Spartans, men who stood against an empire. If you find history as fascinating as I do, don't forget to like and subscribe to Echoes of History, and join me on the journey to explore the greatest stories of humankind.